Hey guys, Omni here. We're going to do another reaction to New Rockstars breakdown of episode 7 of Wandavision. We did one for episode 6. It seems like a lot of people have had some interest in that, and people have been asking if I was going to do it again for episode 7. So why not? Here we are. So I've been really looking forward to this. Again, just put up my reaction to the episode yesterday morning. So go check that out if you haven't, because obviously there's going to be spoilers for episode 7 in this breakdown. So yeah, I'm really curious to see what they say with this. My go-to place, as always, is New Rockstars for breakdowns, for episodes, for pop culture, mainly MCU related stuff, or anything huge they definitely cover here. If you're not subscribed to New Rockstars, guys, do it. You're doing yourself a disservice if you're not, and you're into this stuff, you follow these shows, check them out. A lot of great information, a lot of great dives, breakdowns, reviews, reactions, podcasts. You'll get your time's worth. So let's go ahead and see what we got for their breakdown for episode 7. Here we go.
New Rockstars, I'm Eric Voss, and this is a breakdown of Wandavision episode 7, which, spoiler warning, confirms Agnes as the witch Agatha Harkness in a basement dungeon that I wish this blue dungeon was. Give me a Baphomet yak head any day of the week and I'll yak your ear off about it. Look, there is so much hidden in this episode, so it's time for another shot-by-shot breakdown of everything you missed to try to make sense of this and scare you just a little bit. Let's get started. Okay, you may have noticed how each episode, the way Wanda says previously on WandaVision, gets progressively less and less cheerful.
Previously on WandaVision. 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 Previously on WandaVision.
Reflecting.
I actually didn't notice that.
As this fourth wall illusion collapses around her. The jig is up, folks. The fourth wall is broken, and now Agatha takes control, reframing this hex as her own show.
Oh, I didn't notice either that her eyes actually turned purple when she did that spell on Wanda.
So is Vision's pillowcase, but notice he's not there. Wanda's pillowcase ain't hexagonal, maybe reflecting that she is not really part of this hex, but in her shame, she chooses to blanket herself in the hex to try to escape her reality. The boys' Wii remotes glitch back.
A little bit of
GameCube
it might be a
controllers,
stretch, but I think that's a good observation.
And then Uno cards. Now, Uno was the game played by a young Monica Rambeau with her Skrull friend in Captain Marvel, a relationship I believe we might be revisiting. Now, listen to the radio as Wanda makes cereal. Radio station WNDA for Wanda. Also, notice the DJ calls the children of Westview little ghosts. Maybe another clue pointing to the theory I pitched last week that the children who just showed up in Westview could be the souls of dead children. Maybe the children who
I don't know.
Killed over the years.
Maybe.
Or one of those kids could be reflected on this milk carton as it glitches, now showing a missing child photo. Now, this is after the milk just warped from almond milk to vitamin D milk. In other words, something vegan to the milk with the most fat in it. Now, I'm not saying they're eating babies. Oh yeah, I kind of am, because clearly this hex is for the children, for Agatha to consume their life force.
That'd be very Hansel and Gretel-y.
Now, Wanda cereal has a circus theme with a clown on it and a circus tent maze on the back, which is just like the circus theme Wanda's expansion turned the sword camp into. Similarly, Vision and Darcy kind of get lost in a maze trying to get away from this circus back to the heart of Westview. Now, these opening credits
That's a good
are
point.
a fusion of 3 modern sitcoms: the piano music based on The Office, rapidly shifting titles based on the Happy Endings intro. Happy Endings was a show produced by the Russo brothers before they moved on to Marvel. And then this final title, White and Red on Black, is based on the Modern Family logo. And all these home confession cams, handheld camera movement, all based on the Modern Family cinematography as well. But within these flashing titles are a bunch of fun details. The license plate number is 12/28/22, a nod to the birth date of the late great Stan Lee, December 28, 1922. Another title says, "Sorry, we're Wanda," as in Wanda being synonymous for the word closed, the way she has closed herself off from the outside world. And there's another one in straight up kidnapper letters. "I know what you are doing, Wanda." Very, I know what you did last summer. I like the idea that this could be coming from Agatha, shaming Wanda into closing herself off, leaving her kids vulnerable for numbing. Another title shows us some fridge magnets with B and S visible in frame, as in this Westview sitcom is bullshit. And then from Hayward's new sword camp, the hex has expanded so you can see its top edges are also angled, not unlike, folks, a circus tent, like the Circus of Sword agents are now trapped in. Now this is a 3D hexagonal prism. Like every angle you look at it, there's a hexagon, which shouldn't be possible. Like think about it, how do you link a bunch of planar hexagons in a way that they all fit neatly together? So this is a theoretical shape, like a tesseract, which in physics is actually a fourth dimensional hypercube that's really only capable of being seen by human eyes as a 3D cube, as this fourth dimensional prism passes through our 3D dimension. I bring all this up because
the fuck?
this hyperhex could be a similarly trans-dimensional phenomenon, a hex from a dimension beyond our perception that passes through our 3D dimension and then warps the nature of the system within it. And I lost you. Look, if you really want to get creeped out, check out this agent when Hayward plans to probably nuke a New Jersey town.
Yeah, I feel very lucky. What's happening with the broadcast?
What the hell is that movement? It kind of looks reversed or scroll-versed. Now over in the circus, Agent Monty is now the strong man. Darcy's an escape artist. You'll know some of the employees wear jumpsuits with a circusy version of the sword crest. Later there's a booth for Fool the Guesser, which I feel like is what this show is trying to do to us. Back home, the weather shows sunny weather with
Didn't think about
chance of
that.
clouds. Later when Darcy drives, she comments how it never rains in Westview, yet it does on them. And this is right after the Nexus commercial in which dark rain clouds form. Billy asks about Uncle P, and Wanda says,
Don't believe anything that man said. He is not your uncle.
Who is he?
And notice how Wanda threateningly points the remote at these boys? They look shaken, as if mommy might change them the way their game controllers were just warped. And then Agnes arrives, and she's wearing purple, which is the color of Agatha Harkness. We actually see Agatha Harkness's ornate purple dress and boots for a brief second at the end of the
I can't wait to
episode,
get a
but
full
she
shot
has
of
been
it.
rocking Agatha's brooch the whole time. And we've seen all the clues up until this point. Agnes is an amalgamation of Agatha Harkness. Pretty much every word of her mouth has been suspect.
The devil's in the details, Bev.
That's not the only place he is.
So Agatha, of course, is the witch who often accompanies Wanda in the comics. Now, she's not always evil. Most of the time, she's kind of neutral or actually kind of a good guy. But in the West Coast Avengers run that WandaVision seems partly based on, Agatha gaslights Wanda into thinking she has kids who are actually pieces of Mephisto's soul, as Pietro called them last episode. Unleash hell, demon spawn! Demon spawn. Now here, Agnes says,
I think I got there in the nick of time, because she was one split end away from cutting her own bangs.
nick of time. And her rabbit is Senor Scratchy, which some think could be a nod to Agatha's son, Nicholas Scratch. And cutting her own bangs, Agnes might have been afraid Wanda is about to cut, aka erase her bangs. These things she got by, you know, banging. Am I reaching? Shut
Yeah.
up. And Agnes says,
A little bit.
Suspicious mole on my back that I just can't see. Boundaries. I get it. Say no more.
moles, of course, are associated with witches. People thought it was a mark of the devil. But notice how the camera cuts away right as Agnes lifts her top. But look at Wanda's face and Tommy's face. They're not just weirded out by Agnes doing this. They are disgusted by whatever it is they see. I'm assuming there's some hideous festering mole under there. And Wanda says,
I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine.
she has now become Mrs. Hart.
Stop it. Stop it.
Both of them channeling that scene in Get Out.
Stop it.
I'm fine.
Stop it.
And kind of me when Joker
I was thinking
says
of more
order
like-
society.
Stop it.
No.
Ross and
By
Friends.
the way, if you want to support my insanity,
Fine.
you can check out all of our great merch options at newrockstarsmerch.com. This is our latest Obsession shirt, An Unusual Couple. It's a way to support the channel directly and get a great shirt. Okay, so Jimmy receives
They
Darcy's
didn't go into it that
cataract
long
email.
this
If you
time.
Look at his screen. Darcy ends this email with, "This is a decoy communique he sent to Vision's office." So that answers who sent Vision that email in episode 5. It was a ploy by Hayward to shake Vision out of the trance to try to get him to leave Westview so that Hayward could retrieve his sentient weapon.
Interesting.
Monica meets up with the sword unit led by Major Goodner.
My mother would appreciate your loyalty.
She's not the only one we're loyal to, Captain.
So is Goodner the big mystery engineer the past 2 episodes were setting up to be like a big deal that everyone thought was gonna be Reed Richards? Well, let's think about this. Goodner likely worked for Sword's space program. I'm actually assuming these are the astronauts who didn't report back to Hayward, but instead of them just not having the nerve, maybe they just thought he was a dick undoing Maria Rambeau's legacy. And I have a suspicion that this unit is a Sword division of Skrulls. Maybe the unit Fury is attached to on that space station. Goodner could be a grown-up version of Talos's daughter, Monica's Uno pal, steering clear of Hayward because unlike Maria and Monica, he views aliens as threats, and they're not yet revealing themselves to Jimmy Woo because he brainstormed Skrulls as possible perpetrators of all this. But they could totally trust him. Just look at that smile he walked up with. He probably begged to stop and get him coffee. He's the number 9219
Yes, he is.
R probably for Rover. 9219 could be a nod to the year 1992, which would have been in the window of time Soren, her daughter, and the other Skrulls were hidden in Earth's orbit. That would be 1989 to 1995. Maybe something big happened in 1992. Maybe 1992 was the first year they built this river. Darcy tells Vision,
Fine, I'll go out with you, but I'm ordering the lobster.
now remember, lobster was on the menu back in the first episode, so I like this little thing of Darcy being kind of a stan, because even though she's in the Hex, she might subconsciously still be shipping herself with her sitcom dream boo. Now, the Zulu girl could be a nod to the one in Agents of
Tahiti?
S.H.I.E.L.D. Remember, Sky had one of these in those framework episodes. That was the event where Coulson ranted about the Hydra soap that we've talked about before. As the house glitches, the stork returns, and then Wanda says this to the confession cam.
I can't fix it.
Do you think maybe this is what you deserve?
What? You're not supposed to talk.
Huh, now at first this reminded me of the moment in The Office where a crew member appears on screen for the first time and everyone's like, what the f***, they're actually committing to this format? Modern Family just pretended like there's no reason for a documentary, which kind of made it creepy why camera crew would be filming Claire and Phil hooking up in weird role-playing scenarios. Ugh. Now, this is my favorite detail episode. Later, the Agatha All Along sequence revealed Agatha to be the one behind the camera. Agatha, probably the director of this show. But this male
It does
voice here is
sound like
actually
her
Catherine
deepened.
Hahn's voice, pitch shifted downward.
Yeah.
Do you think maybe this is what you deserve? Do you think maybe this is what you deserve?
Now next, this
Aw,
commercial for Nexus
that's so sneaky.
antidepressants, and holy shit, my theory was right. Roll that clip, John. Do not be surprised if this next commercial in the Modern Family era is a stereotypical pharmaceutical ad. Medication for anxiety, depression. Folks, this doesn't always happen. And if Mephisto ain't in this show, this might be the only vindication I get. Anyway, Nexus, the reality of your choice, the world revolving around you. Yeah, these are all references to Wanda Maximoff being a Nexus being in Marvel lore, an individual who exists separate from any one reality or timeline. This is how Wanda was able to flip realities in House of M, and this tells us that this series is probably setting up the Marvel multiverse. Actually, you can see this bottle behind Ithmar there reads multi, probably for multivitamin, but the word multi's there, so this is a big deal. Even if Evan Peters Pietro is not Quicksilver from the Fox X-Men universe, clearly with this Hex expanding and expanding, that could be one way realities rewritten in a House of M way to create the multiverse, a crisis that they'll have to deal with in Loki and Spider-Man 3 and Multiverse of Madness. Bear in mind, characters like Jean Grey and Kang the Conqueror are also technically Nexus beings, so I think we'll get a much clearer definition of what exactly this means with the TVA and Loki. Look at that word, nexochromicide. That suffix side means something that kills, like spermicide. So this is 10.3% Nexus promoting killing, as in Wanda is using her Nexus status to reset reality to kill off 10.3% of people. No more mutants. Or you could read this as an active ingredient that kills off or reduces by 10.3% one's affinity to use the Nexus to chaotically rewrite reality, giving Wanda greater control over what would normally be super chaotic. I love the way this commercial's shot. This woman lays down in bed, but then they rebuild the set so that the bed is on a wall.
Yeah,
that she steps
so
away
good.
From. So her reality was literally turned on its axis so that she can actively step forward from that depression sinkhole on a level plane. In the corner of the screen, it reads, "See our ad in the Westview Gazette," a nod to the newspaper that keeps showing up with ads for appliances reflecting Vision as an appliance in Hayward's eyes. And the voiceover also says, "Ask your doctor Chapter, which could be a nod to Doctor Strange, being
Hope
the
so.
doc who helps break Wanda's addiction to this reality warping in Multiverse of Madness. And it ends with this woman stepping to the right into this red glow, as if to say,
Oh,
the way
I didn't notice
forward,
that.
little lady, is to take this
should have.
Hex's med, become queen of your own reality warp into a red tinted hex. Yes, I know while I'm going through these Easter eggs and theories, you gotta look at this dumb face with this dumb beard on it, but that doesn't make me a neck beard. I like to clean it up around the edges.
This is
With
our
that, I do
sponsor.
a bit of shaving. My favorite part of that is how smooth
Yeah.
my skin feels afterwards. Well, thanks to our sponsor, Harry's, I am feeling smoother than
And
ever.
here.
Quiet, Agnes. On the inside.
A signal that Billy, as a telepath deafened by all the noise in Westview, is unable to read Agatha's thoughts,
Yep.
nor the thoughts of the quiet Senor Scratchy. Actually, notice when called out, Agatha freezes her hand just over the rabbit, almost as if ready to activate him into a new form. And Agnes mentions Ralph.
Ralph says I sugarcoat things, but you try telling a 10-year-old that his mother is cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
Now, on the table before her are these violet flowers with leafy stems. These look like the flowers that are all over her yard. The leaves look like what Billy was just feeding to the rabbit, or it could have been spinach, or it could have been these leaves. My theory is that this plant is the Wundagore Everbloom, the plant that grows in Agatha Harkness's yard in the comics that, once eaten, gives one visions of what life could be via feelings of pain. In the Tom King Vision comics, Sparky the dog had eaten this plant, discovered after
Yeah.
Virginia beat him to death, and I believe Agatha killed Sparky for digging up this plant in her yard, and that she has been drugging Wanda with this plant all along. Think about it. The plant that she first brought her in episode 1, a plant tied with a purple ribbon. The dinner in episode 1, her booze in episode 2, the lavender spray in episode 5. And now, in a medicinal form, notice that Wanda pops pills. And what does Agnes do for her when she arrives? Brews her tea. I'm assuming some herbal tea. Herb. She even makes an herb out of herb. And why is she doing this? Well, the drugging keeps Wanda in the fantasy so that Agatha can consume the life force of her children. Now, did Agnes actually gobble up these kids like the witch in the Hansel and Gretel story? No. They're probably locked up somewhere or part of some kind of ritual somewhere deep in that dungeon as they are being, reassumed into Mephisto, maybe drained of their energy. But like House of M, I think this is all going to end with Wanda not being able to hold on to these kids. Now, Monica activates
Maybe.
a
I hope
spectrometer
not.
in the rover cockpit. This measures radiation, and it's the same device Bruce Banner used to track the Tesseract in the Avengers.
Put the spectrometers on the roof and calibrate them for gamma rays.
And Monica pushes herself through.
Mom, it's okay. I can stay with Grandma.
There's no way I'm going, baby. It's too dangerous.
Maybe I could fly up and meet you.
I really liked this effect.
This audio is from the Captain Marvel film. We actually heard this softly as Monica unblipped back in episode 4. Now in Captain Marvel, this is a scene where Carol and Maria and Fury were about to launch.
I can't leave Monica.
Mom, it's okay. I can stay with Grandma and Papa.
There's no way I'm going, baby. It's too dangerous.
Maybe I could fly up and meet you halfway.
Oh, only if you learn to glow like your Auntie Carol.
But I love the visuals of this. Monica's face stretches from itself, like in the movie Contact when Jodie Foster has that interdimensional travel and her face is here, but it's also here. Scott Derrickson actually said this visual inspired Doctor Strange's trip through the multiverse. And I bring it up because that is essentially what is happening here. Monica splits into a spectrum of her various roles in her life. The moment she unblipped looking for her mother in the hospital, then an astronaut, then a government agent, and then Geraldine. Think about it. This is kind of the order of her life priorities as she's progressing forward. Daughter first, and then starbound explorer, and then country-serving agent, and then maximum selflessness, even in defiance of her own country, a sacrificial empath just trying to talk an Avenger off a ledge. But then Monica pulls all of herself into one and then sticks a superhero landing. She actually does one later this episode too. Her eyes are now glowing blue, and she sees the Westview anomaly in its true irradiated state, kind of like Neo seeing the Matrix. Folks, we just saw Monica Rambeau become Photon,
That's what I thought
an
too.
Avenger with powers similar to Captain Marvel, and it's fitting that her transformation matches how Carol went binary. How? By syncing all of her past selves, all of her past stumbles, and all of her past arising. But I gotta say, this one looks way cooler. And notice how her clothes underneath match the color scheme and clothes of Photon in the comics. Dennis the mailman now works for delivery service Presto with a rabbit logo on his hat. There is
Yeah, I
we
missed
picked
that.
our short titled Presto about a rabbit feuding with his magician on stage during a show, similar to the way Senor Scratchy ran amok during Vision's magic show, something Agatha just revealed was her doing. So I believe Senor Scratchy is either Agatha's son, Nicholas Scratch, and that might be who Evan Peters Pietro is. Think about it, rabbits are quick little speedsters. The other option is Senor Scratchy could be Old Scratch, Agatha's husband, Ralph. But I'm not gonna go as far to say that is the mailman. But the fact that he is wearing this rabbit logo means that he is, like all these things are, under Agatha's control. I'm wondering what is in those Brad G. Lay packages though. Maybe some supplies to help Agatha maintain this drugging. Now Agnes breaks up the heartfelt moment between Monica and Wanda.
Wanda,
Young lady, I think you overstayed your welcome.
Run along, dear.
Young lady, dear. It's like little old lady colloquialisms.
Hey, dearie, why don't you take a Werther's? I'm missing in CIS.
Now, in Agnes's home, there are hexagon patterns on the cups, and then Yo Gabba Gabba on the TV. Listen to them. They're saying, jump, jump, jump. Almost as if inviting Wanda to take the plunge into the basement. Now, some say you can see the chair move on its own behind Wanda as she turns to look at Senor Scratchy, but this is really a trick of the eye, folks. See, the camera starts in a pan and then curves around Wanda's
Yeah, it
face
doesn't look
right
like
as
it's
she turns
moving
her
to me.
head, so you don't really notice the curve as much. And in doing so, it makes that chair behind her look like it's just suddenly scooting itself behind the wall, but it's just the way the camera's pointed. But then Wanda sees this cicada. Now, cicadas are said to symbolize immortality. These things sleep for like 17 years before they hatch. There could be a parallel here with Agatha, who might stay dormant for years and years and then re-emerge to make her move. Personally, I can't help but see this as a nod to the Silence of the Lambs, the moment Clarice Starling sees the moth in the home of Buffalo Bill, and that's how she realizes she is in the home of the killer they've been looking for, a killer who is hiding
that's a cool.
horrors in
That'd
the
be a cool
basement.
parallel.
Down there, Wanda finds this dungeon, my heart's desire. Now, first notice how
Or
the
could be the
aspect
fly
ratio
on the
is telling us
wall.
that Wanda has left the
Even if
hex
it is a
temporarily.
cicada.
This dungeon is in the real world. Now, in this place, folks, an animal head across the way. This is either a goat, a ram, I'm thinking, maybe a yak, something Baphomet-like. Demonic faces are carved into the pillars above hexagons with golden symbols etched in. You can see more animal bones in a red-lit cabinet, a winged creature in another corner, and of course, the big one, this glowing book. Most likely, the Darkhold, the ancient marble Book of the Dead created by Chthon, the demon who, in the comics, cursed Wanda Maximoff with her powers as a baby. The Darkhold appeared in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. It had a different cover. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. unfortunately is not really considered canon by Kevin Feige, so this is probably just gonna be a new version of the Darkhold. This symbol on it looks interesting. It's like two keys joining together to open a central lock. Now, I have speculated this book could be from the Camartage Library, which would root Wanda's sorcery in Doctor Strange's Eldritch magic, which could explain its hexagonal geometric shape. Like many of the sorcerer's spells take these interesting angular geometric shapes. Now, some are saying this could be the Necronomicon, which was derived from the Darkhold. I think it's more likely to just be the Darkhold, and it's going to be used to justify all the supernatural elements in the MCU, like Blade. But here, this is likely the source of the hex that this witch is putting over Wanda, because, folks, this is a satanic temple, and the witch who occupies it reveals herself.
The name's Agatha Harkness. Lovely to finally meet you, dear.
And then an amazing revised intro sequence revealing it was Agatha all along. Notice how Agatha starts by floating to the ground to help this domestic family, like Mary Poppins, who is a witch, don't forget that. And the lyrics say she pulled every evil string. But it's interesting, it doesn't say anything about her creating this hex, it just makes her sound like she's meddling in the hex. But all this includes Senor Scratchy, Herb, Pietro killing Sparky. She lied to Vision, and it looks like it was to get him to leave and get him out of the picture so that she and Pietro could move in on those kids. This whole sequence, the music sounds like it's the Monsters theme, but notice the female vocals here are actually done by Catherine Hahn herself.
Pulling every evil string. It's been Agatha all along.
Now notice how Agatha picnicked as Pietro arrived. Perhaps that creepy appendage we saw in the mirror was her magic pulling him into the house. Now Pietro also appears in the post-credit scene of this episode, surprising Monica when she snoops into the basement.
Snooper's gonna snoop.
Snoop, Sky,
You'll
Snoop.
notice Monica's eyes glow purple, but I don't think this means Agatha's magic has hold of her because she still reacts cognitively to Pietro. She's not in a trance yet. I just think as photons,
Actually,
her eyes illuminate
it looked
to
like they were
reveal energy
illuminated
that wouldn't
before she
normally be
turned.
visible to the naked eye,
So,
like how they glowed blue earlier. But
might
interestingly,
be right.
notice Agnes's car has a Connecticut license plate, not a New Jersey one. Agnes did mention how her and Ralph's anniversary was June 2nd, the day the Salem witch trials began in 1692. Salem is in Massachusetts, but at that time, witch trials and executions were happening all over New England, including Connecticut. But as Monica peeks in through the door, look at the window to the right. A shadow moves, independent of Monica's reflection. This is something else inside. I'm thinking this could be Senor Scratchy turned into Pietro, and presto, darted over to Monica to catch her. Look, folks, I'm not going to try to fool you. Agatha is clearly the villain of the show. Westview is her operation, but she's got associations with witchcraft, with dark magic, and there's still a very good chance she has a silent partner that we haven't met yet. And all signs are pointing to Mephisto. Not just the devil in the details, not just demon spawn. A Paul Bettany interview was released this week suggesting there is still an unseen major cameo popping up.
There is one character that has not been revealed, and it is very exciting. It's an actor that I've longed to work with all of my life.
And in the same interview, Paul Bettany seemed really coy about Mephisto in particular.
I can't speak to it right now because I'm worried about getting fired.
So as great as this Agatha reveal is, I think most of us did see it coming. So there is probably one.
So maybe the Luke Skywalker
shadows, the
cameo isn't the one he's talking
by the way,
about.
If you want to win a free PS5, our merch partners Epic Hero are doing a giveaway. All you gotta do is subscribe to the channel Epic Hero Labs, and then head over to patreon.com/boss all along.
Yeah, okay. All right, so another fantastic video. Again, if you're not, subscribe to New Rockstars. They're brilliant. Again, sometimes they clearly reach for some stuff, but that makes it fun. That makes the videos fun to watch. But yeah, I think he was fairly spot on for a lot of things too. Like the cicada thing, like I knew that wasn't a fly, obviously, because one doesn't look like one. It kind of looks like a horsefly a little bit, but yeah, definitely like I thought it was like a locust or a cicada. But it could also be a reference to Mephisto's first appearance in the comics, where he showed up as a fly on the wall. And that could again, I talked about this in my live stream too. I think that Agatha is the main villain of this story, of this show. But we definitely have so many implications that she's working with another entity, or at least is working, maybe not another entity is working through her, but she's definitely got a partner. Whether it's her son, which I think might be a little bit of a stretch. I hope those are just nods, because that might be a weird way to tie it in. It doesn't really explain the Evan Peters part of it all. Because one is not really in the picture anymore when he shows up to Monica. So unless he was pulled from another universe, which we've talked about as well, maybe she pulled Pietro from another reality, because again, she rewinding a little bit of an episode or two ago, she was surprised to hear that Wanda was able to bring back the dead. Maybe she can't. So since she couldn't bring back Wanda's Pietro, she brought in another one herself, mind controlled them to help her manipulate the Wanda situation even further. It does seem like, she's not the person that set up the hex. She seems to be taking advantage of the hex, and maybe the roots are drawing energy off of that, feeding off of Wanda's magic, kind of tying back to the shark commercial, and it ties into the Nexus or something like that. Maybe she's got access to it through Wanda's powers that she's channeling. Maybe she's trying to use it to transcend realities. Maybe there's somebody she's trying to either free or resurrect herself using Wanda's powers. Using her powers, her ties to this Nexus as well. We don't really know. We don't know what her motivations are just yet. So all we can do is speculate. But the big question is, there's a reason they chose Evan Peters. There's a reason that he was picked out of this. And I think a lot of people might be disappointed if he ends up not being related to Pietro at all. Because again, I've made this point many times. Like if they were trying to trick Wanda, if they were able to shape shift people and their appearances, there's no reason they couldn't make it Aaron Taylor Johnson. Just because he's dead doesn't mean you can't shapeshift into him. Talos would be able to shapeshift into him if you just got to look at him. So it doesn't have anything to do with resurrection. So she could have summoned him from somewhere else or disguised somebody as Aaron Taylor Johnson just as easily. So there's still got to be a reason to that, I think. Now, could he be Nicholas Scratch? It's a possibility. You know, I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how they pay. If the rabbit and the mailman and all that things just kind of nods to one another, I definitely think when she talks about Ralph, she is talking about somebody. So I obviously her ties in the comics are more in line with Mephisto. And a lot of people think it's going to be Nightmare because of the rumors we've heard about Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. But just because Nightmare may or may not be involved in that movie doesn't necessarily mean they're involved here. You know, he could be an underling for this thing, this creature or thing or entity as well. And he's just the main conflict in Doctor Strange. You know, I think behind the scenes, I just don't see any hints of Nightmare aside from the use of the word nightmare and giving people nightmares and shooting red wiggly woos and stuff like that. There's not every other nod points to Mephisto. So whether or not I don't think he's going to be the main villain in this. I think Mephisto's there, but I think he's one of those like in the shadows. I think at this point in this show, Agatha is our villain. And that if Mephisto or another force is involved, it's just from the shadows, a voice beyond the veil, or something she's working for or towards in some fashion, in some way. I mean, we know in the comics as well that her kids were spawned from Mephisto's energy. That's what created Billy and Tommy in the comics. Originally was Mephisto himself. Wanda unknowingly drawing from Mephisto's being, and eventually they returned into his body, and that could be Agatha for the children, bringing them back to the person Wanda stole them from, or was siphoning this energy from. Possibly. Maybe not. Again, they're adapting the comics. They're not going to do everything to the T. They're not going to do everything exactly like the comics did, but it just helps us kind of see what they might be going for. Again, I think there's a lot of references, of course, to Agnes's and her tie to the devil, which I think would be separate from Nightmare. And maybe Nightmare, maybe being the villain in a specific movie, Multiverse of Madness, if that does end up being true, is yet another vessel or vassal of Mephisto, in a way, maybe setting up Mephisto for more of a longer con, because we've seen him in imagery and Loki as well, and I think it's all going to be end up being connected. Now, I don't think Mephisto is going to be the big bad that we set up throughout all of the next couple phases or anything, maybe like for a short period. I really hope we eventually build towards Galactus. I want that to be our next Thanos level threat. It would be like possibly Galactus or something of that level, but that's where I still stand on this. At best, I don't think we'll see Mephisto in the show. Maybe we will get a quick look, cameo, glimpse, or just a voice from the echoes or the shadows or a veil or something, the other side of the multiverse through this nexus. But yeah, I still think he's involved, no matter what. I think I'm standing by that. So that we still don't really know what's going on with Evan Peters. We don't really know Agatha's goal. I do think that even though Vision thinks that Wanda's the one keeping him away while him and Darcy are trying to get back in, I think that's also Agatha at this point as well, creating the maze, keeping him at a distance, because again, she's the one that's really kind of seems to want to get him out. Another thing, I don't think she can control him either, because the moment she started playing against that was when she realized that he wasn't under control of Wanda either. Was in episode 5 when she tries to do that. Do you want to rewind that? You know, he kind of messed up this scene, and she was taken aback by that. And since then, she's been a little averse. There's definitely been some aversion to Vision at that point. And as of course, we see her coax him into trying to go out into the real world. We also is the engineer. We saw Goodner, the mystery cameo or whatever, her Monica's engineer friend. Don't know yet. If it is, there needs to be a little bit of a more reveal to that, because it's been alluded to that this would also be something we would definitely be looking forward to. So I hope if at minimum, hope she ends up being, like Eric Voss said, which wasn't something I thought about, maybe Talos's daughter from, Captain Marvel, just in disguise. At minimum, if it's not her at all, we still have hope that it could be a bigger cameo. Is this cameo they're talking about playing just an actor who's going to be playing Mephisto? This actor that are they even the same thing? The actor that Paul Bettany wants to work with could be separate from the cameo that Elizabeth Olsen has promised, because they had talked about a Luke Skywalker level cameo will appear in the last couple episodes of the show. Is that separate from what Paul Bettany is saying? Because we kind of focused on the fact that maybe, at least some of us had been focused on, is this cameo, this Luke Skywalker cameo, going to be somebody that Paul Bettany's worked with in the past? Or that he's wanted to work with in the past, somebody like a big actor that he's always wanted to work with but hasn't. And some of us were leaning towards, well, maybe it's Ian McKellen, but obviously those two have worked together, and I didn't think about that because I completely forgot they had worked together in Da Vinci Code. They were both in that movie. So they've worked together. So I don't think that's going to be it. So, and is this, it doesn't necessarily make that actor he's talking about working with mutually exclusive with this Luke Skywalker cameos. They could be separate. And that wasn't something I really considered until today, that they could be different people. We could still see somebody come in that's like, holy shit. And it's like, maybe Reed Richards or Luke Skywalker, or wait, not actually Luke Skywalker, shit. Tobey Maguire, Ian McKellen's Magneto, and then this other person that Paul Bettany's talking about could be anybody else. Maybe the person that actually is Mephisto, because he did seem pretty like, I don't know, just the expression on his face when they asked about Mephisto, he was like, I can't say anything about that right now. It was a little sus, not gonna lie, about how he addressed that question. But yeah, I'm curious to see how this is going to go. Honestly, the questions are a lot of fun. I love the speculation. Some people are taking it way too seriously. A lot of people are, I think, getting really tired of the Mephisto people, like thinking Mephisto's everywhere. And some people are getting a little antagonistic about anybody who thinks it might be. And I think some people just need to chill. We're all having fun here. I don't care. I think if you're taking it serious to the point you have to like start going after some people, because we had a little bit of a tussle in our live chat today. Some people going at it in the chat that I had to like put a stamp on. So just relax, guys. It's fun. All these theories are just theories. No one knows anything yet about this show, and we're allowed to think what we want. Other people who watch the channel are allowed to think what they want, and please be respectful of that. That's all I asked. We're here to be a community, to just have fun, playing our thoughts, bouncing off of each other, and sometimes even creating our own thoughts and theories that are just fun, just playing back with the back and forth banter between us all. Enjoy it. We're all friends here. Relax. It's all good. Anyway, that's it. Do the kids, are they down in the dungeon? Probably not. I think they may have been reabsorbed into the source that they came from. Another tie as to why I think the kids are also important, and it ties into the Nexus as well. One of the reasons that Wanda was feared as a Nexus being, certain entities feared that if she gave birth, a Nexus being like her gave birth to children, those children would have the ability to influence all of reality in a way much greater than Wanda would. So there was a kind of a created attempt to prevent her from having kids. And that's one of the reasons I think they were also allowed to be returned to Mephisto rather than actually exist. So I don't know what's going to happen with the kids. They are kind of setting up Young Avengers or New Avengers or something like that down the line with, the new Hawkeye, with Miss Marvel, with our new, legacy characters. We're passing on the torch to a lot of people. We got Ironheart coming. It's very much, there's going to be a new phase of Avengers, a younger Avengers team that I think would be really fitting if we do see Wiccan and Speed move on beyond this show and maybe come back, maybe even get aged up a little bit so they fit in with the rest of the kids. Could very well join that cast for the Young Avengers down the road. I don't think they'll be gone for good. I don't think we're going to lose them permanently like there is a large chunk where the kids just stop existing in the comics, but we'll see. We'll see what direction it goes. Again, this is an adaptation. They can do whatever they want with it while picking and pulling whatever elements they like to for the story they want to tell. And I'm here for it. Again, the MCU is technically in the multiverse of itself, its own Earth, its own iteration, while the stuff in the comics are its own. So it's all an interpretation, it's all a variation, and it all exists simultaneously. That is the magic of the multiverse. That's the magic of its existence and its purpose. Allow people to tell these stories in the ways they want to tell them. So yeah, I think it's going to be really fun to see where it goes from here. Get another fantastic video from New Rockstars again. And if you're not subscribed, go subscribe to them. Guys, I hope you all like this video. That's about all I've got to say right now. If I've missed out on anything, just call it out in the comments and we'll carry on the conversation down there. Again, guys, make sure you're following me on Twitter, Instagram, on Twitch, and even the Discord channel that we got down in the description here. I just ask everybody to obey the rules and be respectful. But yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. I'll catch you guys next week in the next episode of WandaVision. Take care, everybody.